Hi guys, this is Black and Indigenous American. Hope all is well with you. I actually took the day off today from my regular job. The company had a picnic today, and I chose to opt out of it because it's going to rain, and I kind of didn't want to be there. So instead, I'm here with you guys, and so I hope everyone's having a good day. And for those who eventually see this video, I hope you're doing well. And let's go from there. Now, this video that I am going to focus on is about tribal communities that have been terminated. And I came across this article. And what I'll do is I will put that link in the description box after I go live. It said, can Native American tribes protect their land if they're not recognized by the federal government? Now, let's kind of like sit in that right now. When at the end of the day, when it all hits the fan, are you more interested in the status of being considered Indigenous American, the title, versus actually going out and doing things that the average Indigenous American person cares about, like protecting the land, protecting the resources, protecting our mother? I can't tell you how many events I've gone to that was centered around protecting our Mother Earth. And many of the people that I see at powwows locally or within 200 miles from here, I never see them. Ever. Never see them. Never see them promoting on their Facebook page. None of that. But when it's time to dress up and be Indigenous American Indian at a festival or a powwow or a gathering, oh, they are decked out. Decked out. Makeup flawless. Regalia is on point. Some people even have 2 or 3 different style regalia, right? They have options. That takes a lot of money. But anyway, nevertheless. And I'm saying to myself, where are you guys? You are, for the most part, Mr. and Mrs. Pow Wow. Mr. and Mrs. Native American. Proud through and through. Blood runs deep, right? And or you're connected to a community that is federally recognized or state recognized. And you are head dancer, what have you. But where are you when there is something going on that's related to an Indigenous population directly? It indirectly affects us all as well. But where are you? Unless it's a big thing, like in DC, sometimes we have really big protests and rallies that gets a lot of attention and celebrities show up. Oh, when celebrities show up, that's when you see them. Decked out in their regalia. And my thing is, why do you feel the need to be decked out in your regalia? I mean, maybe you have a feather in your hair or something like that. Or maybe a ribbon skirt, because a lot of women wear ribbon skirts. That signifies their opposition to things that are anti-Indigenous American when it comes to the environment, or women's rights and stuff like that. So you do see a lot of women wearing ribbon dresses. But if you're decked out in your regalia at a protest, are you really there for the protest, or are you there for selfies and to possibly be in somebody's newspaper. You know, I wonder about that sometimes. Hi, Love Legacy. Hi, Kaya. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Thanks for tuning in. You guys are actually somewhat on time because this video was not advertised, right? I'll just pop up anytime. So thanks for checking in and watching this video. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Pow Wow. And I'm being very generic, but you guys know, if you are, you know, aware of festivals that pertains to Native American people, Indigenous American people, you know, powwow, gathering, something, you know, and it's certain ones too. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Powwow, they don't just show up at any powwow. Oh, no. Their status, baby, their status. It has to be, you know, one of the well-intended ones where there's prize money. Then they show up. But anyway, let me get back to the topic here. So the topic is you have Indigenous tribal communities that have lost their federal recognition or state recognition. They were terminated. And this article, again, I'll put the link in the description box later. It says, can Native American tribes protect their land if they're not recognized by the federal government? This caught my attention because this is not just, I have a card, I'm Indigenous American, you know, put me up on a pedestal type situation. This is, they understand the spirit. They understand the significance of their land. They want to protect it. And for the most part, they want to protect it to indirectly protect the rest of us. And so I was looking at this article and I pretty much, you know, jumped through, and here it says, Creator, this is in quotes, Creator gave us this responsibility to care for Mother Earth and all living things, end quote, says Chairman Valentin Lopez. The Mudson's lands lie within the contemporary northern Salinas Valley, portions of San Benito County, and Pinnacles National Park. Quote, we knew that we had to find a way to exert stewardship over those lands to restore our relationship with the land, end quote. Like Ramirez tribe, Mudson is also not federally recognized. And I'm gonna drop down here in the next paragraph. It says, California has the largest number of non-federally recognized tribes in the United States because of a perfect storm of policy decisions. That was in quotes. In 1851 through 52, shortly after the state entered the Union, the country negotiated 18 treaties with California tribes, guaranteeing lands and other rights. But the Senate refused to ratify the treaties, leaving most California Indians without land or legal protections. Only natives who ended up on small settlements called rancherias, which to me, I guess it's kind of like a reservation, eventually received federal recognition, which didn't all last. Then in the 1950s, Congress terminated 109 tribes across the country, including 41 California tribes. Really? Some of those tribes have never been restored. Today, 55 tribes in California lack federal recognition. More than 20% of non-recognized tribes nationwide, according to the Government Accountability Office. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. And then when I was reading this article, I kind of jotted down to the reason why they were terminated, Like, why were they terminated? And let's see. Let me get back over there. There was a reason why. Okay. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the reason why they were terminated because they were seen as self-sufficient. Ain't that crazy? So apparently, if a tribe is considered self-efficient, then the federal government assumes that they no longer need to be protected by the federal government. And so with that, since you don't need our protection, since you're self-sufficient, we're going to remove you from the list of federally recognized tribes because you're self-sufficient now. You no longer need our recognition. However, that's a catch-22 for people who all they know is what the federal government provided for them over the generations. And when that's stripped from them, when it's taken away from them, it's it's one thing when you were born into a society where you can come and go as you please. If you're nomadic, then you're nomadic. You can, you can travel over here to follow whatever herd that you follow. And it has nothing to do with being planted in X amount of acres of land in a reservation in this box. And that's where you can stay and you can't go anywhere else. So when you have the free-minded, nomadic tribal communities versus the generations later that have been accustomed to that reservation kind of mindset, and then when the federal government strips that from them, for me personally, I'm thinking of being, I'm thinking of like a farmer versus someone who goes to a grocery store, right? Most people I know, they rely on grocery stores for their produce, right? If you are a farmer and you were like raised up in a sharecropping kind of environment, and you know how to plant your seeds for different fruits and vegetables, you don't rely on the grocery store. You know how to provide not only for yourself, but for your family, even in your community, right? So I kind of think of it that way too. Like the federal government has created a system towards federally recognized tribes where generations later, they rely so much on the federal government that it's kind of hard for them to just be. Because one thing about this article is talking about protecting the land. And when you have the federal government involved, and you know how the whole eminent domain and, developers coming in and raping the land or whatever, do non-recognized or unrecognized tribes have any weight when it comes to practicing what they believe is the right thing to do to protect the land? So again, it's that catch-22 thing, like federally recognized tribes having that domestic sovereignty to protect their land versus unrecognized tribes that are very in touch with the land and they fight for the land and the protection of it. But yet you have that pushback, like, oh, well, you're not federally recognized, so you have no say. You know what I mean. So yeah, when I saw that self-sufficient thing, I said, what there's so many different layers of stripping an individual or a community from the federal recognition status, right? So yeah, when I was reading through this article, I mean, it really it really like got to me, because of course I'm not from California. I am East Coast Virginian. But still, it's like, it's one thing to be seen as, oh, you're not Indigenous American because you don't have the certain amount of Indigenous American blood with this tribal community or that tribal community. But no, this is like, okay, we recognize that you are Indigenous American from California. However, we're going to terminate you anyway because it looks like you don't need us and you're self-sufficient. So we're going to just go ahead and just strip your status with us. So do you. That's what I'm getting from this article, which is fine because I'm all about being self-sufficient and not relying on the oppressed government. However, when it comes to the land and protecting the land, right? Then you have that. Let's see. Let me read something else here. Something else. I'm going to kind of drop down at the bottom here, pretty much get the point of this article. Let's see. Okay, so when you actually go to this article, guys, there's a section or subtitle that says "From Landless Tribes to Land Stewards," and this is in quotes. Because Indigenous peoples have the millennial-old relationship with place and the responsibility to care for the place, I think you will actually see better care for the environment when land is returned to tribal control, says D. Archie. Now, D. Archie, let me go back up. Who is D. Archie? D. Archie. Okay. D. Archie, first name is Angela. So Angela Mooney D. Archie. She's the executive director of the Sacred Places Institute for Indigenous Peoples. So that's who that is. She made that comment. Then the next paragraph, it says, Ama Mutsun and other California tribes have created land trusts, nonprofits to work with landowners and agencies to preserve important cultural and ecological sites, including Quirosity Valley Cultural Preserve in Santa Cruz County, part of the California State Park System. See, they're onto something, okay? The tribe is partnering with the National Park Service to protect and nurture traditional gathering sites within Pinnacles National Park. They even conducted a cultural burn, which is prescribed burn that's been practiced by Native peoples for millennia to eliminate wildfire fuels, enhance food sources, support biodiversity in groom watersheds, to support plants use in traditional basket making. I know of an area in North Carolina that does that when they do the controlled burning situation. I believe it's in Hyde County, North Carolina. So it does happen in at least that state as well. And then in quotes, it says, our partnership with Ama Mutsun, that's M-U-T-S-U-N, is helping us learn how tribes care for the land, end quote, says botanist Brent Johnson. Quote, it's deepened our relationship, end quote, he adds. Quote, rather than sitting in an office talking, we're outside together and looking at the lands and plants. End quote. However, Johnson is careful to note that because Ama Mutsun isn't federally recognized, the Park Service can't call it a government-to-government relationship. Instead, it's more of a community partnership. Okay? So sometimes you got to pick your words and titles carefully to kind of get around the BS and the red tape and everything in order to be able to take care of the environment. And again, this is California, and so each state is different, and some states care less about the environment than the others. But most states do have some sort of park preservation service type situation, you know, like national parks, state parks, stuff like that. Non-recognized tribes are still navigating choppy waters, though DRT points out that California cities and counties are the next level of government that needs education on inherent sovereignty, and federal and state policies can come into conflict with non-recognized tribes exert their rights. And progress is needed in other states, which could learn from the steps being taken in California. Again, one thing about California, they have their issues as well, right? They have their natural disasters when it comes to earthquakes and things of that nature. But when it comes to health and wellness, at least on a national level, when I see it on TV and vice versa, it seems like they got their stuff together, or at least they're trying to. Like the West Coast, when it comes to environment, when it comes to eating well, wellness in general, and even that spirituality, being in touch with nature, it seems as if they get it. So even though California has issues with the termination of indigenous tribes and all that type of stuff, when it comes to environment, this could be an option for many non-recognized tribal communities that actually do care for the environment. They're in touch with their roots, literally, the environment. They're very in touch with that. And so in Virginia, you have the ACP, which is the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and you can do research on that. It's pretty similar to a lot of pipelines that are in place or about to be in place throughout the United States. It's like spider webs of pipes everywhere in this country. And so I say all of this because there are tribal communities, I mean, state recognized, non-recognized, that have been opposed to ACP in the state of Virginia and in North Carolina. You do have some state and federally recognized tribes that are for the pipelines, because maybe there's been some financial gain or some kind of recognition that they are obsessed with, that say, okay, the only way that we can get recognized, we have to be okay with the pipelines and fracking and uranium. So let's just go ahead and play and get in the game, and let's go ahead and sacrifice our environment so we can get recognized, because we've been wanting this for so long. You know what? There was a couple of tribes that initially were for the pipeline ACP. It's out there. It's floating out there now. It's floating out there. And then after some of their tribal members got on them about that, they pulled away from being in support of ACP. You can look that up too. All right. I guess they thought, okay, let's play house with the feds and with the state government and get our name of all the tribal communities state recognized on that proposal or on that document, so they can at least see that we are Indigenous American in a state of blah, 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 blah. So we are in black and white. We need more recognition. So is that recognition more important? Is it more important? Is that tribal recognition from an oppressed government more important than protecting the environment? Just saying. Okay. I will continue. Let me just reread the first part of this paragraph because I don't even know where I stopped. It says, non-recognized tribes are still navigating choppy waters though. DRG points out that California cities and counties are the next level of government that needs education on inherent sovereignty, and federal and state policies can come into conflict when non-recognized tribes exert their rights. The progress is needed in other states, which could learn from the steps being taken in California. Okay, this is where I stopped. Okay, continuing. Further progress, the tribal leaders tell us, will be central to the development of coordinated programs to address cultural rights, preserve lands and waters, and especially to create a united response to climate change. White, W-H-Y-T-E. I'm not sure who that is. Let me go back up here because I skipped around. So let me see who that is. Who is white? Okay, Native environmental activist. Name is Cow Palsy's White. I think that's who it is. Let's see. Oh, sorry, wrong white. There's two different whites in this article. White is an enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation and professor at Michigan State University. So that's who that is that's responding in this article that, this paragraph that I'm reading. Okay, so let me make sure I get back to my place here. Okay, White says he's met many people in government or academia who have found themselves confronted by the idea that all indigenous peoples, not just federally recognized tribes, play a role in protecting their lands around the country. Moving forward means figuring out ethical ways to collaborate with a broader range of partners, including developing trustful relationships that extend beyond the standard government-to-government policies of the past. Quote, that's necessary whether you're in California, Oklahoma, the Great Lakes, or the Arctic, he says, which is White. So anyway, again, I'm going to post this link later so you guys can check it out. There's also a video on here, and it's only, I think it's only 2 minutes. I might even play it now. You won't see it. You have to go to this link and look at the actual video. So let me play it right now. Again, it's only 2 minutes. I apologize because I'm not that savvy yet with YouTube as far as live videos and having something else showing at the same time. So I'm gonna play this video. Hopefully there's no ads. Okay, no ads. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear it.
We've been on this path for 10 years to try to help people wake up, to try to help people understand what the water issues are. These things come from the Creator. It comes from the mountain. It comes from the sacred places to try to help open the way up so people will understand what is going on here and maybe help us survive it.
Water is a commodity in a lot of people's eyes, and it's not a commodity that's going to drop anytime soon. It's only rising in its worth. And people know that. And there's going to be people lobbying and repositioning themselves and pushing and pulling for those assets. And where we're at, Shasta Dam is right there. It has the biggest reservoir in California, one of them. And there are people who are wanting to get their hands on that and resell it to cities, resell it to businesses and agricultural districts and water districts. and profit from that at the expense of river systems and salmon returns and my people's ceremonial sites.
The dam, if they do build it, will cover up 40 more of our sacred sites who help us be the Winnemem people. And realizing that we have nowhere else in the world to go to learn that. These things come from the Creator. It comes from the mountain. It comes from the sacred places to try to help open the way up so people will understand what is going on here and maybe help us survive it. This is the area that will be totally destroyed when they raise the dam. And this is also the area that they built when they took our lives away from us. And I say that because they took our food sources, they took our land, they took our homes, they left us with nothing, absolutely nothing. And so now we're praying for that to change. We're praying for the justice. We're praying that the Creator will help us to change all these things.
Okay, so that's pretty much the video. Kim just requested that I put the link down for you guys. I just put it in the comment box. Later, I will add the link to the description box. But in the meantime, I was going to go ahead and just share that with you. So within that link, if you guys look in the comment box, within that link, you'll see the actual video that I just played in the middle of the article. And then you can just, look at it yourselves later. But anyway, yeah, that whole self, what did they say? They said that you are self-sufficient or whatever. You no longer need to be recognized by the federal government, after X amount of generations that have relied on the federal government. So even though it's a slap in the face, and even though it's initially a sense of being lost or disrespected because you've been removed from the federal recognition status, I just want you guys to know that I hear you, I see you. For those who have been terminated. This is from someone who has never been federally recognized by this corrupt government. This is from someone who has a mixed ancestry. This is from someone who's from the southeast of the United States of America. This is someone who gets it. And even though I've never lived on a reservation per se, and I'm coming from more of a colonized mindset, but I'm tapping into my indigenous roots at this point in my life. And in some cases, I'm on the spiritual path as well, connecting to my indigenous roots. And not just indigenous roots here in the Americas, but also my indigenous roots across the ocean. There are indigenous people all over the world. And even though we're talking about indigenous Americans right now, there are indigenous people all across the globe. And so there was a link that I clicked on within this article, and it pretty much says it's Native Voices, Native People's Concepts of Health and Illness is on that website. So I kind of went to it, just to kind of, look around and see what's up. And so I did that, and there was this 1953, Congress seeks to abolish tribes, relocate American Indians. Here we go again, right? It says Congress passes a resolution beginning a federal policy of termination through which American Indian tribes will be disbanded and their land sold. Again, for those who are not federally recognized, for those who are seeking federal recognition, this is the kind of stuff that such government does to people. This is the kind of stuff that they do. And so just be who you are, connect with like-minded people. And take it from there. Because at the end of the day, this particular government, it desires to eliminate Indigenous American people on paper. Be done with us. Oh, they did a heck of a job on the East Coast. Oh, they've done a heck of a job on paper. But guess what? We still here. We still here. That blood runs deep. It didn't go nowhere. It's alive and well. And when we recognize ourselves, we tap into our power, our inner power. Who cares what that government has to say about us self-identifying and being who we are, being self-sufficient? Being self-sufficient is a blessing. Right now, I'm thinking of welfare. I'm thinking of the rules and the regulations they have around welfare. And if you make too much money, you're ineligible for those benefits. And some people, you know what some people do? I might as well just sit on my butt and keep having children. Now, I think they have reformed welfare where eventually they're going to just cut you off regardless of how many children you have. But once upon a time, he was like, what's the point of me going out and getting a job? And I got 3 or 4 kids and I got to turn around and pay for daycare. My rent's going to go up. And a laundry list of other things that they've been conditioned to receive from the feds or from the state, local government. And as soon as you become self-sufficient, they pull that rug from up under you. And what are you supposed to do? Because that person or that group of people are not used to being self-sufficient to the point where they no longer qualify for programs. And so they're working poor. That's exactly what they are, working poor. But at the same time, if you were not conditioned to receive those kind of benefits for doing nothing, but being at risk or considered under the poverty line or whatever, right? If you didn't have that, guess what? I believe the community will probably be even tighter, will come together even more and look after their own. We wouldn't have to rely on that type of government that we have today. We will rely on our self-sufficient tribal government, our community. We will rely on that. Our community would take care of orphans, would take care of our elders. Everybody would take care of each other versus the solo mentality, the way that we live today for the most part. You know, a lot of us, we left our hometown, we went off to college or university or whatever to pursue the dream of being self-sufficient without a community, right? And then we get trapped in these careers or jobs because they pay a lot of money. But the trade-off is losing yourself, losing your community, I mean, you can be Black all day, but at the same time, you're being molded to be like them, to be assimilated, right? So I believe if there were no kind of welfare type programs like that, and I know I might get a little hate for this, because this does not sound liberal at all, but just think about it. If you haven't been conditioned to rely on crumbs from the master's table, and you all as a community work together, you have this person over here who is a blacksmith or a herbalist. This person is known for her or his power of medicine. You have this person over here that is good with his or her hands. They're architects, they're carpenters. Everyone is given a gift by the highest divinity, not only for ourselves, but to benefit our community. If everyone utilized their gifts as a community, then you wouldn't rely on our government. You wouldn't rely on our government. And so just think back how it was before the colonizers came. How did we live how do we live without some of the comforts of today? Many of us are going to have to go back in order to break the chains. And I'm speaking to myself as well. We have to break the chains of the modern comforts and go back to unleash the chains, to free ourselves. And so it sucks again to be terminated as a tribe. But at the same time, if all these people get together, right? Oh, you're talking about power. You're talking about power. So anyway, let me read on this website. 1953, Congress seeks to abolish tribes, relocate American Indians. It says Congress passes a resolution beginning a federal policy of termination through which American Indian tribes will be disbanded and their land sold. A companion policy of relocation moves Indians off reservations and into urban areas. Through these policies, the Bureau of Indian Affairs plans to move thousands of American Indian peoples to cities and urban groups. And then this is in quotes. Nothing else that Congress can do causes tribal members to lose more of their rights than termination. Termination is the ultimate weapon of Congress, an ultimate fear of tribes. Despite its drastic effect, the Supreme Court has held that Congress has the power under the Commerce Clause to terminate a tribe, end quote. This is Stephen L. Pevar, and he wrote The Rights of Indians and Tribes, the Basic ACLU Guide to Indian and Tribal Rights, 1992. Now, I did go on Amazon. I did find the book. I'm going to give you guys the link. Eventually, it will be on my in my description box, so you can go check it out. So that book is available. It came out in 1992. And actually, let me go over to Amazon real quick. I think I have it up here. Yeah. So just a little bit about that book. It says, this informative guide thoroughly discusses the legal powers of Indian tribes, civil and criminal jurisdiction on Indian reservations. And then the keywords is like Indian hunting, fishing, water rights, taxation in Indian country, the Indian Civil Rights Act, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and tribal jurisdiction over non-Indians. And then I kind of looked down at some of the reviews of this particular book, And let's see. In 99, this review is pretty old. Back in 1999, it says this book should be required for all young Indian students interested in preserving tribal rights and customs. It is a quick and easy to read reference for class and personal use. Anyone, including non-Indians, interested in learning about tribal reserve treaty rights needs to read this book. Now, disclaimer, I have no expertise when it comes to reading treaties and all that stuff because my people didn't sign treaties with the federal government. And that's one of many reasons why I am not federally recognized today. But at the same time, I think this is good to at least comprehend how it all works. And again, what I just read on that Native Voices website is also linking that book that I just mentioned to you guys. So that's that. So let me go ahead and read. Let me go ahead and read some of your comments because I'm sorry I haven't really been looking at your comments because I was trying to get that part of the video out the way. Okay. So let's see. We have Coco. Hi, Coco. Hi, sweet. We have Kim, Bam, the super predator, Halito. Hi, how are you? Legend, I guess, LLGN. Peace, sis. Peace to you as well. And Kim says it's all about the benefits to some tribes. Sadly. Tribes, sadly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I said, once you become self-sufficient, apparently. Now, again, I don't know if there's some kind of legislation since the 1953 Congress passing that resolution. I don't know if something else was drafted to protect many tribal communities from that termination. I'm not sure. I'm still learning about all that. But many people, as soon as they either find out they have Indigenous American ancestry or they've been told they've had Indigenous American ancestry, the first thing they want to do is be federally recognized so they can get benefits. For me personally, the benefits to me is just some kind of way to appease a small percentage of people, and then the rest of the other people they don't care about. So that small percentage of people are getting crumbs from the master's table, just like Uncle Sam and Aunt Jemima, for those who understand Black slavery history. They are the tattletales. They are the ones that will go and tell on you so they can get brownie points. You know, Samuel Jackson, he's one of my favorite actors. He played in Django along with Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio and a few other well-known actors. I can't think of their name right now. But I say this because Samuel Jackson played an Uncle Sam, okay? And part of his character was to tell on everybody so he can stay in Master's house and get brownie points, right? I think with federal recognition, you do have a lot of that going on. And we call them tribal police. And they try to debunk and they try to discredit a lot of people, and not just those who are not federally recognized at the moment, but even those who are federally recognized groups of people. They find ways to discredit them so they can get that stripped away from them. It's not just the white man, people. It's not just the colonizers. it's those who are getting some crumbs, and they don't want the crumbs to be swept away. So what they do? Tell me what they do. Come on. I'm listening. You got to watch out for them. Let's see. That was Kim's comment. And then I'm going to drop down here. I did that already. Okay, I'm looking through some of the comments, and you guys kind of going back with you yourselves, each other. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. Your awakening is happening. This is what Taino. Hi, Taino, by the way. That's what Taino is saying. Your awakening is happening. Kim says, I am doing the same thing. I'm Black and Lumbee, North Carolina roots. Hey, Lumbee. Hey. Okay, cool. I am very familiar with a few Lumbee people who are amazing. They're amazing representatives of their community. I love it. I'm so glad that I've met some amazing Lumbee people, right? And the fact that you acknowledge you're Black and Lumbee is just a beautiful thing. It is beautiful. I thank you, sister. I thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Learn more about it. Taino says, Kimba, I see you are Lumbee, but what is Black? What does that mean? Okay, Kim says they did it in Virginia. Right, Black Indian, real deep. Yeah. My father's Black, my mom is Lumbee. Okay, Sweet says Virginia tribes has been recognized. Now they get their percent. Oh, you talking about the Pamunkey tribe of Virginia. Very old tribal community that we've all heard about. From Pocahontas to her father. The Pamunkey people, they have history deep that's recorded by white people, might I add. That whole casino thing rubs me the wrong way. Not that I'm against casinos. I'm not against casinos. But why is it that the first thing they're talking about doing is this whole casino thing? And it's a lot of money. Oh, it's a lot of money involved. I'm thinking, I'm all about hemp. It would be amazing if they had a farm full of hemp. Also a solar farm, you know, some kind of solar energy. I think the Navajo people, I read an article how they are tapping into the solar energy business, which is a beautiful thing. When I went out to New Mexico and I drove through Navajo country, it was just so much open space, so much sun. I mean, they have an abundance of sun. It's like utilize the elements wherever you live. If you have the power of commerce to do that, which the Navajo do, that's a beautiful thing. But the first thing the Pamunkeys already talking about doing and drafting their blueprints and stuff is a freaking casino. So whatever. Let's see. Taino says, Kimba, don't just settle for the word Black. I'm pretty sure your dad has a heritage to get what I'm saying. Oh, I understand what you're saying, Taino. Unfortunately, when it comes to Black American ancestry, many of us have been stripped from our African cultures, that's plural, our African tribal identifications, that's plural. Most of us are aware that we have a West African ancestry or connection, but that's about it. And so when I did my DNA test, it came back with, several African tribal communities or whatever. But one stood out, and it was the Fulani. The Fulani people are a nomadic community of people. My strong connection is with the Guinea-Bissau people, in particular for the most recent genetic connection, is with the Cape Verdean people, the islands off the coast of West Africa, Cape Verde. And the Cape Verdeans, they have a mixture of Portuguese and Guinea-Bissau. And so Fulani people are, for the most part, they're kind of in the Guinea-Bissau area. So the people on the Cape Verdean islands, they are very much connected to the Fulani people. So it was a beautiful thing when they were able to narrow down some of the tribal communities. But this was only through DNA. As far as culturally connected or whatever like that, I know a lot of Black African people, African American people, they kind of gravitate to South Africa, right? Nelson Mandela, the kente cloth, I'm trying to think of that one holiday. It's around Christmas time. People help me out here, where they burn candles. And it's focused on African, at least African American pursuit to connect with Africa on a spiritual level. What is it called? Let me see. Did anybody add? What is it called? Kwanzaa. Yes. Thank you, Kim. I should be ashamed of myself. I never participated in Kwanzaa, so, but I say that if someone says, oh, my dad or my mom's Black, and then they reference another parent with a particular tribal ethnic connection versus just color, I do understand, one thing I love about New Orleans, my second home, by the way, is that they don't shy away from their diverse ancestry. Many people say they're Creole. Creole could be anything, right? But that's one thing I love about their self-identification. They may say African American or Black, may not necessarily say what kind of tribe, because again, that is kind of diluted, and that is unfortunately something that's not passed down. But many of them are connected as far as Africa via the diaspora. They're connected through Haiti, right? So they have their Haitian roots. When I got my results, when I looked at my DNA results, most of my so-called Black blood was not in this country. They had an African American sample on their website, and I looked at their sample and I compared their sample to mine. Most of their Black was up there as far as being connected to Africa, but they were in the United States. And I think most of them were like in New York City area, like the metropolitan areas, Chicago, whatever. Most of my Blackness was not in the United States. It was actually in the Caribbean, West Africa, and Cape Verdean Islands. So mostly the islands, the Cape Verdean Islands and the Caribbean. In particular, get this, among the Caribbean, my highest connection to Black was via Haiti and Jamaica. Haiti and Jamaica. And what's funny is, a few years ago, I was at a furniture store, and I was talking with a furniture rep, right, sales guy. And I could hear his accent because I think he was Jamaican. So he was talking or whatever. And then I was talking to him, and something slipped out that sounded very like the accent, like a Jamaican accent. And he kind of looked over at me. are you Jamaican? I was like, no. He was like, he was like, you look like many of the Jamaicans that I know that are Black and Indian, meaning East Indian, because they have a significant percentage of East Indians that migrated to the Caribbean, right? I think a lot of them migrated for work or something like that. So you have Trinidad, Jamaica. I think those are the top two places that many of the East Indians migrated to. My aunt, she married an East Indian man that was from Trinidad. So I understand that. But he thought, like, when he looked at me, he was like, you look like you like Black, Jamaican, and East Indian. He was like, I know a lot of people in Jamaica. He was like, you sure you're not Jamaican? And this is before the DNA test. I was like, no, I'm not Jamaican. But I say all of this because in New Orleans, a lot of people, they connect with the Haitian roots, Black roots, right? But anyway, we're all trying to put the pieces back together. A lot of that history has been kind of hidden. It's another word. I'm trying to say another word than hidden, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. It's a sense of pride. And I think many of them who try to suppress that, they're afraid that we're going to wake up and realize who we are. They're afraid that we're going to wake up and actually recognize who are our enemies. And it's not ourselves, right? We're waking up. Many of us are waking up. Now I have relatives that are still not there yet. I'm hoping eventually they will be. They're kind of like in a fog when it comes to what really matters. Many of them still worry about who won at this particular ball game, who's on this reality TV show, what this person's wearing. They're focusing on things that really just does not matter. You know, many of them are trying to look like a different person by putting all this makeup on, and not just my family, but just in general. They put all this makeup on. Guys, have you seen YouTubers that can transform by just simply using makeup? Oh my goodness. It was like magic. And some of these people, unfortunately, they can make themselves look like a different ethnicity. And they feel good about themselves when they transform. You talk about weaves swinging. No, that stuff don't stink. But they're looking like another group of people. You don't even look like yourself. Now, I'm not a makeup person. I put a little, lip gloss on here and there. That's just me. I don't like a lot of makeup. And if I'm going to wear makeup, I want to enhance my own beauty, right? I don't want to look like someone else from a totally different ethnic group, but you have people that can do that just with makeup. That's crazy. But yeah, you have these, I'm using, okay. What is this girl's name? And she's not a YouTuber. She's actually pretty famous. Doing what? I don't know. But I think she was involved with P. Diddy, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, whatever he's going by right now. And she, like I said, she's Cape Verdean, apparently. Amber Rose, that's her name. I came across a video of Amber Rose. I think she's pregnant now. Not a video, but a picture, an article, something. Someone forwarded to me. This woman looks nothing like you would think she would look without makeup. She looked like a regular white woman. And I don't want to be derogatory or anything like that, but I grew up in a trailer park, okay? That's all I'm going to say. And I'm like, I thought she was Cape Verdean. Like, where's her color? Like, where, like, her phenotype, everything just kind of got washed, almost whitewashed with no makeup on. And with makeup, she looked more ethnic. She looked more closer to, you know, what a typical mixed Black person would look like an Alicia Keys, right? No, she didn't look like that at all. And I was wondering, I wonder if she uses makeup artists to make her look more ethnic. You have those people, they call them blackfishing, I think, where they can use makeup to make themselves look more exotic. Why is that? Why do they want to look more exotic? Right? Why do they want to look more ethnic as far as people of color? It makes you wonder, right? So anyway, I got way off topic. Let's see. Coco says, native in both sides of my family, Black Choctaw. Hi, Choctaw. I think one of the communities down in Louisiana is Choctaw, Indigenous American communities down there. Anyway, I felt at home in New Orleans, y'all. Because I'm like, you have some of the same mixtures throughout the Southeast, Black, white, Native American, you know, that triracial thing. But when it comes to down there, they embrace that. You look at somebody like, yeah, they're mixed, whatever. And they'll say, oh, I'm Creole. They don't say I'm mixed with whatever. It's just, you know, a label. I'm Creole. Oh, okay, I can see that you're Creole. Or whatever, the language, the cuisine, what have you, the culture, you know. Yeah. So I say all of that because each region, they self-identify differently from the next person. So if a person says, you know, I'm Black, and they name a tribe of some other group of people, you know, it is what it is. But many of us now, again, the veil has been taken off. We're awakening. We want to know more about who we are, what we are. And by tapping into that, we're powerful. Our medicine is power. If you don't know who you are and you basing your identification on what someone else put on you, that is unfortunate. It's sad. And many of us have been plagued with that, right? We've been plagued with that kind of identification. But then when we realize who we are and what we are, we're powerful. We're dangerous. We are dangerous. When we realize who we are some dangerous beings in a good way, right? Let's see. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show this top here. This top says, Strong Native Woman. This is a Mach 70 t-shirt I got a couple of years ago. Remember, I mentioned Mach 70 in my last video. It's a vendor, it's a woman-owned based vendor. They are at many powwows up and down the East Coast. And I will leave in the description box some links so you can check out their apparel. I love this top. I actually got this top a little before Standing Rock protests and rallies in DC. And then I remember the first time I wore it was at that rally. So I've had it a while, like I said, 2016. But yeah, check them out. It's called Mach 70, MOC 888-888-7270. And I will leave that again in the description box later. I have, I think I have a gray one as well. And I mentioned I have, oh, and I know that artist who designed this, her name is Jess, and she lives in Pennsylvania, but she's on the board of the Native American Lives in Baltimore. So yeah, she designed this. So I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, back to the comments again. Let's see. Kim says, I do get it, my friend, but just know Black is not a bad term. To be more specific for you, my great grandmother is from Jamaica. Hey, Jamaica. Hey, Jamaica. You know, I've never been in Jamaica, but I know plenty of people that have gone and they love it. So one of these days I'm going to get out there. Hi, sweet. You say, yes, you are talking good. Time is changing. Yep. Moreau says, right, Kimba, Black is not a bad term. It's more straight to the point. Taino says, so Black is not a nationality. It's a color. I know we've been simulated into calling ourselves Black. That is not an actual people. It's a color. It's a title that was given to us. I see your point as well, Taino. I do. Once upon a time, I didn't even want to be called Black because I'm like, my skin is not black. My skin is brown. I'm a brown person. I'm not a Black person. But I get what you're saying as well. So I mean, I've grown to be okay with the term Black. I know it's a color. We're also called Negro, which is, you know, the color black in Spanish. We have a dark complexion. We come from a dark people. Many of them are the color Black, like literally really, really dark. You know, it is what it is. I really do think we are just a different race of people because we're so mixed up now. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, it's coming from a nice place. Okay, Taino says Pan-African told me that they are Black racial groups of Africa. I started laughing. There is no such thing. Everyone is connected in a tribe. Yeah, I think most of the self-identification is tribal. If not tribal, definitely nationality. Like I've met people from East Africa and they're quick to tell you, oh, I am Ethiopian. Or I am Samoan. Or not Samoan, I'm from Somalia, you know. I am Eritrean, you know. They self-identify with their nationality because there's a lot of Ethiopians in the DC area. And so I mean, even though I know there's sub-Saharan Black African people and whatever else they may be mixed with, but I identify them because they self-identify as Ethiopian. So I said, oh, they're Ethiopian, right? You know, that's kind of how I look at it as well. So I think if more and more people self-identify with however way they want to be self-identified, then eventually the rest of society will follow along with that. We shall see. Okay, I'm gonna drop down a little bit. Yes, Django was a really great movie. Unfortunately, when I went to New Orleans, I did not get a chance to check out the house that's somewhere in that city. That there was a scene that Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio walked up some steps into a house, and apparently that house was in Django. And I just didn't have time to figure out where it was or whatever. But next time I go to New Orleans, I'm definitely going to check out that house and maybe take a picture or two in front of it. Okay. Let's see. I'm jumping down here. You guys were going to town on these comments. This is good though. This is good. I love the feedback. Let's see. He did oh yes. Yes. Samuel L. Jackson made me hate him. That's when you know that you're a really great actor, when you get people to love or hate you. It has nothing to do with you, but you become that character for that moment. And I was like, ooh, I love you, Samuel L. Jackson, but I can't stand that. I can't stand that character you're playing. Oh my God. If I was there, ooh. Anyway, let's see. Moreau say he did Sam Jackson. Okay. Moreau says they don't care about the tellers either. Shake my head. Snitch. Yeah, definitely a snitch. Uncle Sam's, Aunt Jemima's, snitches. And you have so many of them out there today. Businessmen and women, you know, people in some kind of power, pen power, what have you, financial power. They look like us, but they're not for us. What's that saying? Skin folks are not necessarily kin folks. So just because they look like you, and many people unfortunately vote that way, just because a person look like them, they figure that that person will have the best interest, and it's not the case. Not at all. I know we want to support our brothers and sisters that are not part of the colonized side of society, but many of them are colonized. They have colonized mindsets, and just because they look like you and they can, you know, speak very well to your level, make you feel like they're for you, they're not necessarily for you. Sorry to break it to you. I'm sorry. So sometimes people outside of your community that look like you, but they are like-minded, those are the best people you should be voting for. You should be standing beside. You should be supporting. I hate to say it, but just because someone looks like you, that does not mean that they're for you. Sad but true. So sad, but so true. A lot of people who were forced into slavery from West Africa via the African diaspora, many of the times it was not a white European person chaining them up and stealing them from that continent of Africa. It actually was a lot of Black Africans that sold those Africans into slavery. And it could be prisoners of war, you know, many tribes, communities, you know, African communities fought against each other. But still, just because they look like you, know, that was a tribal thing, people. Oh, you ain't part of that tribe? They don't care if you look like them. If you ain't part of their group or their club or their sorority fraternity, it's sad, but it's true. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. They building 2, 1 Norfolk and Portsmouth. Are we talking about, okay, sweet. Are you talking about casinos? You said they building 2, 1 Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia. Okay, Taino says, Black doesn't just mean African, and I won't trust DNA testing. Oak 0.1%. They can't tell you nothing about Africa. That's a fact. I've researched it for entertainment purposes only. Okay. Even a DNA test that's supposed to be all about Black DNA. What do you think about those, Taino? I actually was watching a couple of videos not too long ago. This one, let me see if I can remember. Let's see. I was watching this one video, and it was all about the African aspect of DNA testing, not just, they focus on African DNA, let's just put it that way. because many so-called African Americans are definitely mixed. There's no pure Black or whatever. So this particular company wanted to highlight African DNA, kind of overlook white master blood floating through your veins, especially if you're male. You're gonna carry that Y chromosome, right? You're gonna carry the DNA of the mother and the father. So obviously, if you're looking at the paternal line and there's white master either getting some on the side from his Black mistress or raping the Black woman. But the point is, the male, there's going to show a lot of European, right? Female will show more the woman of color, not necessarily Black, but most of the white is probably going to show up from the male side. I mean, if you really think about it. Let's see, history. I'm looking at my YouTube's history right now because I'm trying to find that one video that I was looking at. It was actually New York. African ancestry. I guess that's the name of the actual DNA test. It's called African ancestry. Yeah. Instead of ancestry, it's African ancestry. So that's what that company does. I mean, you don't trust that company as well, Taina? That's my question. Let's see. Sweet says there is video talking about dark natives in America and the islands. Huh. Okay. Kim says my African DNA portion is from Jamaica, Ghana, South Africa, and Kenya. Great stuff. This expands my travel list. I'll tell you, when I first got my DNA test, I was all like giddy about it, giggly. And when my results said I had a strong genetic makeup, not that I'm from this area per se, but I have a strong connective genetic ancestry to those people at that particular location. And it was the Cape Verdean Islands. And it's like, when I first heard it, I never heard of the Cape Verdean Islands ever. And if I did hear about Cape Verdean people, it kind of like went in one ear and out the other. But when I learned about the Cape Verdean Islands, I was like, oh my God, I gotta go. I want to go so bad. Because most people, at least African-American people, when they want to go to the motherland, most of them go to South Africa, right? So when I learned about Guinea-Bissau and about Cape Verdean Islands, and I looked at all the videos I could possibly look at about the Cape Verdean people and everything, I was just so excited. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, Kim. Let's see. And then Tyon says, I can't believe y'all still believe in DNA tests. DNA does not work like that. I understand if y'all are not understanding how DNA works. I get it. When I first got my DNA test, I actually did believe in the process. That has been, I'm trying to remember when I got my DNA test, maybe 2007. So over the years, I've had time to kind of like really understand how it works. I do understand that the DNA tests are not perfect. I do understand over the years, maybe the database system has grown, has been more tweaked. They have more people to test versus what they had before. I also understand that it doesn't show everything. That one particular ancestor that you're hoping you can find as far as their genetic makeup on your DNA results may not show up because there's somewhere else down the line that DNA tests couldn't find. If you're female, more than likely, that relative that you're looking for or that connection may be on your father's side. And so the DNA test, again, it's like the outskirts of a triangle. Mother, 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 father, 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 and everything in the middle may not even show up. So if you're female and it's mother, mother all the way back to the, I guess, the first woman, I guess. That line may just not show whatever genetic makeup that your family told you about. But to me, the DNA test is a snapshot of your overall makeup. It's not going to show everything, but whatever it does show, it has some weight to it. So as far as tribal in Africa, like I was told that I have a strong Fulani connection to that. I have a strong connection to the Fulani tribe of Africa. The Fulani people, they're nomadic. They travel quite a bit throughout certain regions of Africa. And they look, not all Fulani people looked alike. They moved around or whatever. So I say all of this, Taino, because I don't necessarily take DNA for face value, DNA results for face value. I do respect the fact that you can use DNA for paternal tests if you want to connect with people, find relatives that may be in their system. Maybe you'll find cousins. For people that do care about federal recognition or state recognition, they're desperately trying to find ways to connect to their tribal community. They could possibly, if there are tribal members that did take a DNA test, let's use 23andMe as an example. If they did take a test with 23andMe and they're in a database and they didn't necessarily put down a tribal, affiliation, but they did have their DNA tests for another person or people to connect to if they're related. So if that person is a part of that community and they're your second cousin, you had no clue, right? Y'all can connect and then find out later, oh, you are related to those people in that tribal community. Then maybe you guys can kind of go back and forth, and that tribal enrolled member could check, okay, if they choose to, what do you know about your people? Where did your people live? And then you can follow the paper trail that way. Maybe you guys can come together and they can kind of put the pieces together, and possibly, maybe, if you're around long enough and they trust you, then they will receive you. They will enroll you in their community. That is a possibility if that's the route that you want to be a part of. But again, the DNA testing, I think, is really good when it comes to paternal testing, when you want to know if you're related to a person versus tribal. Because many of these, at least the US, many of the indigenous American tribes, they frown upon DNA testing. You can show that whatever percent Native all you want, but is it enough indigenous American blood for that particular tribal community? That's the question. And so, again, DNA testing as of 2019, I think it helps people have an idea. The group of people or peoples they may be connected to genetically, but it does not show everything. That's the thing. It just doesn't show everything. It shows, like, you can have children, same parents. Not every child's going to get the same percentage of DNA as the next child. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. One child may have more genetic DNA to their white ancestors than you. That's why their skin is so light, and that's why your skin is not. You'll have the same parents, but that child's skin is lighter. Or you may have phenotypes of a particular group of people, and you got most of that DNA, but then your brother didn't. Your brother looks more like, what up? Same parents, same family, same ancestors. Just each person gets more or less of a genetic DNA than the next. You can also call this throwback DNA as well. How one child comes out looking exactly like a great-great-grandfather. Or, for instance, I I have a relative, she passed on, but she was my first cousin. And out of all of my first cousins, and even my aunts and uncles, she was the only one that had green eyes. Those green eyes came from my grandfather. And so I guess you can call that throwback DNA, because out of all these kids and grandkids, she was the only one at that time that had green eyes. So it is what it is. That's my spiel on DNA results and DNA testing. I don't trust the free DNA testing. I did a video years ago about that. I just don't trust it, right? I think some DNA tests were like sharing your samples, your swab or whatever for medical purposes. And I think some DNA test companies, they're disclosing that now, where if you want to utilize their services, you have to be okay with it. You have to check the box and say you're okay. Or if not, you can also check the box that you don't want to share your medical history or whatever. The point is, you have a lot of DNA tests, DNA companies now that may possibly be sharing your results with the medical community. And many people, including myself, are not okay with that. So you have a lot of gray areas with DNA testing. And some companies, if you do 2 or 3 DNA tests and you try to compare them, sometimes you don't have the same results and you wonder why. Like, why is it that it's showing this on this test, but this test is not showing this? I don't get it. Why I'm not coming up with the same results? You have to also realize that not every DNA test company has the same amount of data samples, right? So you have to consider all of that. Of course, it's a marketing thing. It's been like that the past decade. People want to know who they are, where they're from, or at least their family, because this country is such a melting pot that a lot of our roots, indigenous roots or whatever roots, have been kind of diluted with this whole American lifestyle. And I say American, I mean the United States of America, assimilation and stuff like that. So again, I understand the marketing of it. But at the same time, you have to take it as a grain of salt and go from there. So that's what I have to say about that. But thank you, Taino, for giving your perspective, your opinion about it all. A lot of people do take it for face value. I'm from so-and-so and so-and, and then they decide, like the Ancestry.com commercial, they decide they want to wear a kilt or whatever, which is so silly and stupid, right? For 40 plus years, you were this, and then you took a DNA test, and now all of a sudden, you changed into something else. I think you should acknowledge it, whatever is found, learn about those people, find some kind of similarities between something that's naturally in you versus something learned. Because you can learn culture, right? Some things is just embedded in your DNA, and you wonder, why do I do that? Or why, I don't understand, like, why this or why that. It could be embedded in your DNA memory, right? You have some dogs, and I don't want to compare us to dogs, right? We're not dogs. But you have some dogs that are bred a certain way. And so you have some dogs, if they're looking for something, they point, they point the tail and their nose, and they get real stiff like that. They're kind of bred to hunt and stuff like that. So that's that. Okay, let's read on, shall we? Let's see. Sweet says she tan. You must be talking about Rose Amber. Okay, Taino says, and these islands is a mixture that were the indigenous Arawaks, Caribbees, Sepoya, Kilinagos, etc. They also dumped every Indian prisoner of war into the Caribbean along with the Berber Jews and the Muslims. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Taino. I didn't know that about the Berber Jews and Muslims. Smooth says, hello, I just found your channel. Are you mixed with Native American? Hi, Smooth Riffs. I don't know if you even still watching, but thanks for tuning in. I am mixed racially. I am Indigenous American. I am African American. I mean, their titles, right? Again, African American, I've said this before. What is African American? Because there's no pure Africans living in America, except for the migrants that came over, maybe a couple of generations ago. People that came over here are descendants of the first via African diaspora slave folks. There's no pure African Americans. But I say all of this because, the title of my channel is Black and Indigenous. That's how I self-identify in a generic way. But I am, as far as Indigenous American, I'm Okanichi Saponi from Virginia, okay? We are not federally recognized. We do not seek federal recognition. We prefer to do our own thing without having that extra layer of red tape over what we can and can't do. I mean, we're already citizens of the United States, right? So that's enough. But thanks for watching Smooth Riffs. Kim says, I love the blouse. Purple is my favorite color in the color scheme in my bedroom with a beautiful purple and turquoise dream catcher. That's nice. Purple is definitely my favorite color. I love purple. Like my earrings are wampum, right? They come from a shell that has the inside of the shell is purple. Once the shell is polished and everything, then they call them wampum. But yeah, I love purple. That's my favorite color. And let's see. Okay, so Sweet, you did say the two casinos. One was in Portsmouth and the other you mentioned was Norfolk. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that. Thanks for letting me know. I had no clue. Let's see. Taino says, Sweet, the landmass known as India was not in existence in 1492. Indios, referring those of God, was. Talking about dark and melanated people, that region was called Calcutta, Hindustan, and Bharat. You are dropping some gems on us today, Taina, like for real. I didn't know a lot of this stuff, so thank you so much for sharing. And then you said research it. Okay. Kim says you got your DNA test in 2007. Sis, go recheck. I checked mine and my African went down. Heavens to Murgatroyd. You are correct. Everything in the middle does not show up in your DNA. And that's what sucks about it, right? Again, if you look at a triangle, inside that triangle, this is the part which is the bulk of your existence does not even show up. So many people that get these DNA tests, they get really, really frustrated or annoyed or disappointed or whatever because their family stories just doesn't add up. Sometimes the stories were just stories, right? And sometimes they were not. They were actually telling the oral history that was told to them, and it was accurate. But it's just weird how those DNA tests just do not show everything. What I don't want to, well, let me just say this. Whenever there's a crime scene and they take DNA and they test the hair and the saliva, nails and all that, they can eventually find the person who committed a crime based on DNA, right? But when you take DNA and you go back outside of this one person, you try to go further back, right? That's when it gets complicated. But you would think, like with your DNA, everything in the middle of this triangle, let me see if I can do the triangle a better way that I was doing. I guess this is a triangle, right? Everything inside the triangle is a mystery. It's a mystery. I mean, from the top of our head to the sole of our feet, our history is with us, right? And is who we are. It may not always show up. Like every single thing about us may not necessarily show up to the visible eye, but it's there. So if someone, and I'm using this as an example because it happens quite a bit. If someone says, oh, I have Native American ancestry. If a person doesn't have the stereotypical stereotypes of what the phenotypes look like, then they're seen as something else. But really, it's there for the most part. But it's just physically, it's kind of hidden. But yeah, so. And then let's see, we have, okay, Smooth Riffs. You say you're a very beautiful woman. Thank you, Smooth. I appreciate it. I receive your compliment. I said in another video that I typically wouldn't be comfortable taking compliments from people. I was like, oh, I'm okay. I look okay. I'm fine. Da, da, da. But going forward in life, whenever people give me a compliment, I'm going to receive that compliment. And I thank you for that. I appreciate it. Let's see. Sweet says, dropping down here. You guys are going to town in these comments. Let's see. Okay, Sweet says, do family tree. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to do a DNA test anytime soon. I know a lot of people that I know that took a DNA test a few years ago because apparently the data based system has more samples to kind of compare to versus when I took the test, but I don't know yet. I don't know. We shall see though, right? Kim says, I found a cousin who was looking for a father. He was my uncle. Talk about drama for her mama. Wow. Now that's crazy. That is crazy. You know what I want to do? And I know this is going to be kind of sad. And I kind of don't like to talk about death, but it's inevitable and it's part of life. And it's a part of transitioning when it comes to life. What I want to do whenever, let's say my parents pass away or a male relative pass away, I want to get a lock of their hair. Because with hair samples, you can also do DNA tests as well. I'm gonna have to ask my dad. I feel like somebody in our family, lock of hair was taken from them when they passed. And that lock of hair is somewhere. But the point is, I think it's a good idea to keep a lock of hair or even a fingernail or something from a relative that passed on. So you can always go back and figure things out because everything's not going to always be available in writing, right? You can have oral history all day, which is valid, by the way, but you know how it can be with oral history. So if you can get a sample of their, hair or something like that, maybe keep it in a medicine bag in the meantime, or what have you, obviously respect it or whatever, but have like one string of hair and have it tested. I think a lot of people should do that. I really do. Let's see. Kim says the Cherokee does not do blood quotum, but they have a lot of issues. That's another YouTube video. Yeah. I wonder why they don't do blood. Come on now. We already know the answer to that. I try to keep my conversations away from talks of Cherokee. Because there's so many videos out there about Cherokee, current Cherokee. I'm not talking about Cherokee back in the day. I'm talking about current Cherokee. And we know what a lot of them that are federally recognized carrying their card, what they look like. You know what? Those Freedmans, on the Dawes rolls or what have you, and the descendants of those freedmen that probably got Indian blood. Let's keep it real. They just have a darker complexion. Let's have them tested versus the ones with the federally recognized tribal cards. And let's see what the results will be. Yeah, they hurry up and put a stop to that, didn't they? They did. Okay, Taino says, don't trust those companies. Yeah, I hear you, Taino. I hear you. I do. But they do have a niche now. They have a market now. And a lot of people that want to get connected back to their roots, right? They are jumping on the bandwagon now, especially now that the tests are a lot cheaper. Some tests were actually free back in the day. So a lot of people jumped on it because they figured, hey, it's free. Why not? I want to know where my people come from. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, Taino. Sweet says, Fairy Taino, look at Caramel Hua videos. Okay, so Taino says, I've seen all of the videos. He does great research. Okay. Kim says, Clyde Winters is awesome as well. Okay, you guys are sharing some information I knew nothing about. Like, I didn't know anything about a Clyde Winters. Kim says, he tells us to go back to living off the land. Yeah. That's true freedom, in my opinion. It's just a matter of, like, psychologically preparing to do that. I just need my internet. That's all. I need internet. I think I'll be okay with kind of like, you know, being less in this world currently and going back to the old ways. But I need solar energy, right? Windmills, and I need internet. So if I can have those three things, then I think I can successfully detach from this modern way of living, right? But yeah, let's see. Sweet says, yeah, start learning about other cultures. We must come together. That's right. You tell them. Okay, I guess you were talking about me and learn about other people's culture. Jay Susquehanna, says, who came up with the DNA testing, the science of it? That's the question you should be asking. The scientist behind DNA testing is a eugenics project. You make a great point. Who created it anyway? Again, I'm going back to the dog, comparison, which I kind of don't want to do that, but think about it. Some people are obsessed with dog breeds. They are. They're obsessed with it. They have dog shows and everything when it comes to the breeds. And I think some people, unfortunately, subconsciously, and maybe not subconsciously, they see people as breeds. The human species, they look at different races of people as breeds. And that's why they're so fixated on, oh, what is your race? What is your ethnicity? Every time you fill out a form, every time you fill out an application, they have to know this information. Why do you have to know what my race is or my ethnicity is? Like, what does that have to do with me applying for whatever it is? Why are you so obsessed with that? I am a U.S. citizen. I'm part of the human race. That should be all you need to know. I'm filling out this application. I am a human being. That's it. And I'm a citizen of this country. Why do you need to know what ethnicity, what race that I am in? Because you're so fixated on that nonsense, in my opinion. I'm all about diversity. I love diversity. I want people to embrace who they are, their culture, ethnicity, whatever it is, their belief systems. I think it allows us to be a stronger people, as far as a nation. I love that. But at the same time, it's like when you fill out an application for something, to me, that should not matter, right? Okay, let's get down here. Man, I'm trying to keep up with your comments, guys. Good gracious. Let's see. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm going down. Let's see. Okay, so then Taino said to Susquehanna, facts. And then Jay Susquehanna says, paperwork is the only thing that is accepted in the United States of America. Court system, your family is on records. Find those records, solve the wrong. Riddle. That's what he meant, riddle. We are not Native Americans nor Indians. We are aboriginals of this land. Ouch. So pretty much you're saying indigenous to this land, right? I know aboriginal, that term is kind of like assigned to, let's say, Australia or whatever. I've noticed, like, whenever you speak about indigenous people in Australia, they say aboriginals. So maybe that's what you're talking about, Susquehanna. Hannah. I keep hitting my toe. That's what I'm rubbing my toe. Let's see. Sweet says, okay, look up Tavis Sanders and his mom about this DNA blood quantum. They teach about Black natives. Tavis Sanders. Oh, yeah. I know of Tavis Sanders. I have a friend who talked to Tavis Sanders. I watched his video with him and his mother. So yeah, they definitely talk a lot about Black natives. They may have talked about I don't know if they talked about the Geechee people. Off the coast of South Carolina. I'm not sure. But I have watched his videos. They have some really good stuff, by the way. Yeah. Makes sense. Kim, the $5 Cherokees. Oh my goodness. Here we go again. Talk about the Cherokees. I'm telling you, y'all. If they had that whole DNA, everybody take a DNA test. Come on now. Come on. They are standing clear of that. Ain't gonna be no DNA test results going on there. It's all about that Dawes roll. Finding that one ancestor on Dawes roll. Like that's the only thing that they rely on. Jay Susquehanna says, reading is fundamental. You must go beyond these videos. Yeah. Most, if not all of the information that we need is written down somewhere. However, everything is not written down. We're going to have to tap spiritually into ourselves to get those answers. Everything is not in a book. And I understand scholars out there that rely heavily on peer reviews and scholarly work, and most of this stuff is written by white folks. I get it, but at the same time, a lot of the answers that we seek, we would have to seek it on a spiritual level. And I've said this before, our ancestors know who we are. We carry their blood. We are family. They know who their descendants are. They know a fake. They know a phony. And all those people that's pretending to be something that they're not, the ancestors know. And it's not going to be good for that person or those people if they continue. It's just not. It's not good for you. It's not. The point is, for us who have been disadvantaged by the powers that be. The time is here. Many of us are awakening if we're not already awakened. As some people say, woke. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Sweet says, give me some deer meat. Okay, Sweet says, you're funny. No, I am talking about people that why God made us different for all people to come together. Okay. You have a good topic. Susquehanna says, no, Aborigines, not Aboriginal. These are the terms that we use for us in the very beginning. Okay, thanks for clearing that up, because I was thinking it was the same thing, but thank you. Look up New France. Natives are almost incorrect. The China man who comes here has a baby. That child is now native. Okay. Susquehanna says, P.S. There are maps that literally say America, the Aborigine world. What year were those maps? My family is it mixed Susquehanna, the Creek, Lenape. Is this Delaware that we're talking about? Sweet says Netflix have a video out now about the true natives. So there's a video on Netflix about the true natives. Sweet, can you type that out again? If you already typed it, I apologize. But I do have Netflix and I do want to check it out. Okay. So, if you're still watching, leave that in the comment box, that video that you're talking about. Susquehanna says birth records, land records, court records, military records, the list goes on and on. It's not hard to find, but you got to want to do the work. I did it. But congratulations, Susquehanna, that you were able to find those records and found what you were looking for. Not everyone has the time, money, effort to do that. But I'm happy that you were able to find all that. The industry that I work in, I'm pretty much researching records all day, every day. I analyze developers all the time. They're going to do business with my employer. And I'm checking judgments. I'm checking land records. That's what we really care about, right? We check tax records, birth records, marriage certificates. We don't necessarily look at all of that, but I know in Ancestry.com, whatever is available online now, depending on the county, you can find birth records. You can find military records. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, I was able to find a bunch of records on him, but I couldn't find his military records. It may be available now, but this was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And so my dad had this box full of all of this stuff. And one thing I did find was a letter that was a military record of my paternal grandfather. And that was a gem in a haystack because I couldn't find that online. So I lucked out on that and I got a copy of that. And the way they spelled my paternal grandfather's name, this is the problem half the time, is that the spellings of the names. They actually had his name down as his nickname. And they spelled his nickname A-L-E-C, which is Alec. That's what people called him, but his name was Alexander. Most records had Alexander on it, or they had Alex on it. But this one record, it was a military record. It has something to do with, I guess, where he was living or where he was registered, or maybe where he was stationed in the military, and it had Alec, A-L-E-C. And I think they might have misspelled his last name. So that kind of stuff. That was not available online at the time. That was in my dad's you know, box or whatever. So, and the county that I grew up in, their records are not available online. Well, at the time they were not available online. Many counties now are available online. Some of them require a subscription. Most of the counties that I research for my job are in Florida, in Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, and West Virginia, Delaware, DC. And I think that's it so far. But many of the records in Virginia, you have to have a subscription to gain access to those records. Again, the county that I grew up in, that county, I don't believe has online records. They may have it now, but I don't think so. And so you would actually have to take a trip to the courthouse. Again, I don't live there anymore. My life is not in Southern Virginia anymore. So taking time off from work can be a hassle for many people who live away from home. So you have to consider that too. But again, back to you, Susquehanna, for having the time, possibly the money, you know, the expertise. Maybe you had some clues from family members who helped you out, that put you on the right path, all of that. I commend you. Not everyone has that, but that's great that you were able to do that. And again, everything that's written down is not accurate. It's just not. In the state of Virginia, many of the records were changed. So just going by records alone for face value, it's not necessarily accurate. So that's where I am right now when it comes to records. It's not the all in all, or whatever you want to call it. That is an option. Trying to find your genealogy is going through those type of records. But again, it's not always accurate, and it's not always complete. And you know, it is what it is. Let's see. Susquehanna says, but you have a good one. Do you research on your family is all I can say at this point. But you have a good one. Do you research on your family is all I can say at this point. Okay, Sweet says, yes, I will leave in comments. I won't forget. Kim says, Sweet, what's the name of the video? Okay. Susquehanna says, a person born in a specified place or associated with the place by birth, whether subsequently resident there or not native. I'm a little older and been doing this for about 20 years. Okay, so being that you've been doing it a lot longer than a lot of, I guess, us that's on this video commenting is definitely beneficial. Definitely your expertise, your perspective is welcomed. I've taken a break from genealogy because just life, you know, other things I had to be concerned about. And so I haven't been on Ancestry in probably 3 or 4 years. I'm sure a lot has changed, maybe for the better. Maybe there are more records available online. Again, I don't have the pleasure or the leisure or whatever to travel to different places to collect records. I wish I did. But I'm definitely more than capable of going into a courthouse and researching based on my career. I know how to do that. And so, you know, being able to actually go to a courthouse and look up the records that unfortunately are not available online would be priceless, okay? Many people suggest that when you find these records or these gems in person at some sort of records courthouse or whatever, that you should get them notarized. Of course, that takes time and money or whatever. But yeah. I'm actually following this one YouTuber. I think she lives in Northern Virginia. And her name is, what is her name on YouTube? She actually, like, she came on the scene probably less than 3 years ago as far as YouTube. And this girl is dropping knowledge. I heard through the grapevine that she is familiar with Tavis as well. Someone mentioned Tavis Sanders. I don't know if he and she, or them both shared information with each other about genealogy and stuff, but this girl knows her stuff, like for real, for real. Let me see. Let me see if I can find her YouTube channel so you guys can check her out. Oh yeah, her name is Tasha Z. So that's Tasha, last name Xi. I think it's pronounced Z or Zai or whatever. She actually dropped some gems as well. So when I came across her page, I was like, okay, who is this girl? Where is she from? You know? But I think she and Tavis Sanders, from what I've heard, don't quote me because I might be wrong, I think them two may have shared information, at least on social media, about genealogy and how to find your records and stuff like that. So yeah. Susquehanna says, okay, now I'm going to go to work. No, I would never put anybody down or nothing like that. I wish you all the best, and I will return if you ever need me. I am from Philadelphia. I know about Tavis, good brother. Yay! But 2 passes for me. Okay. Okay, passive. He's too passive. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that you chimed in, Susquehanna. Thanks so much again. Anytime you're welcome to drop some gems, because you know people like us who are still learning all this stuff will definitely benefit from your perspective, and you know, whatever records are out there. I'm not going to necessarily overlook them because there could be some truth in them. I just don't rely heavily on those records because sometimes, you know, they don't, especially the race, they don't necessarily identify the race as accurate as I would like them to. So, but yeah, thank you so much, brother. I'm assuming you're a brother, Susquehanna. If you're not, I apologize. But thank you so much. And do enjoy the rest of your weekend, and take care and be safe. Okay, guys. I'm not done with this video. If you're still holding on, thank you so much. But it's something else that I was trying to get into before I tapped into the comments. Okay, so the next part of this video, which I'm really going to try to bring this down maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then I have to go. I was initially talking about tribes being terminated, right, via the federal government. Well, I listened to this podcast called Native Opinions. I've mentioned this podcast before some time ago. But yeah, so David Greyowl, he is one of the hosts on Native Opinions. And I'm going to leave this link in the description box so you guys can check it out. The name of this was the United Federation of Nations and Tribes proposal. He wrote this in 2016. It says, to all natives who will hear my voice, to all the natives who will want to understand, and to all the natives who know and understand, it's time. While and when we continue to wish and hope and wait for other cultures to recognize us as Native peoples, our rights, our traditions, our very lives continue to ebb away. In a country where we are still considered invisible people, we have little voice, if a voice at all, in deciding our own fates as a people. As many of us know, we have been relegated to be seen as a culture that resides in museums, cowboy movies, or we are identified by a casino. Our nations, whether the nations are federally recognized or not, have had shaky relationships with the federal government since the arrival of non-natives. The history and reality of that statement speaks for itself. Okay? Standing Rock is a prime example of late that exemplifies the poor relationship natives have with governments in this country. I don't need to go into detail. We all are watching what is happening in North Dakota. And I'm going to stop there. This was written in November of 2016, okay? Just so you know. Maybe North Dakota is the beginning of what I am going to suggest. Maybe the beginning for what I will be suggesting started a while ago. The when does not matter as much as why, okay? Just blow this up a little bit so I can see it. I believe in my heart, Native peoples, plural, need to begin to recognize themselves. I believe Native peoples need to stop waiting for other cultures to recognize us. Why do we need to beg to be recognized? Why do we need a government who did not recognize us as humans or citizens until 1924 tells us through a flawed system whether or not we are natives? Are we that starved for recognition and acceptance? Again, it is time for natives collectively, federally recognized, state recognized, and tribes who can't get either governmental recognition to begin to join hands and recognize one another. It is time for natives to join together and support one another. To succeed as a people, I feel this is something we have to do for our survival. It is time for natives to look to our collective futures, okay? Again, I reference Standing Rock as an example of nations coming together. Throughout many Native cultures, we talk about the next 7 generations. Those teachings are extremely important, but those children and grandchildren will have a much more difficult time than we are having right now if we do not do something to ensure their futures. There are over 565 federally recognized tribes in this country. In my opinion, that equates to over 565 islands, separate and aside from one another. There are many state-recognized tribes as well, and those tribes are also islands, separate and aside from one another. Yes, some tribes will work with other tribes, but that still equates a separatism with little power to do very much. My suggestion to ensure the survival of Native peoples and to ensure futures of the next 7 generations is to form a united federation of nations and tribes in the U.S. That would mean all of the nations in this country coming together for the benefit of all natives, for the benefit of all natives. It would not matter if a nation was federally recognized, state recognized, or with no governmental recognition. I believe as a unified body, we will have a greater voice, a greater presence, and the opportunity to determine our own destinies instead of waiting for someone to decide who we are, what we can do, and when we can do something. There are many who would doubt something of this scale can or would work. There are some who will balk at the notion of not wanting to jeopardize their badge of federal or state recognition. Oh my God, no. That's just me and a little extra. But he did say there are some who will balk at the notion of not wanting to jeopardize their badge of federal or state recognition. That is fine. I hear many talk about self-determination. Here's the Merriam-Webster definition of self-determination. Definition of self-determination. Number 1, free choice of one's own acts or states without external compulsion, Number 2, determination by the people of a territorial unit of their own future political status. I got 4 more paragraphs, guys. I hardly believe any nation is living on a self-determination. It is not my goal to preach to anyone. My goal is to hopefully help us all see that we are on a slippery slope, and it has no benefit for Native peoples. I don't have to recount all the lies told to natives over the years, the theft of lands and resources from within nations' boundaries, the countless murders of our people, murders, theft, and lies that still continue today. We are all aware of what Native people have endured over the last 500 years. And if you don't, that's a problem. Come on now. People who live in this country need to know and understand the trials and tribulations that indigenous peoples of this continent had to endure and are still enduring. How dare you live in this country and you don't understand the trials and tribulations and the struggles of the indigenous people in this country, let alone your people, whoever that may be, struggled to get here or were forced to get here. You have to understand the struggles of the indigenous populations here in this country, past, present, and future. That's me adding a little extra. Okay, let me make sure I go back to where I was. Okay, that is all the more reason why I suggest a united federation of nations and tribes. It is time to cast away the tools we have been given to hasten our own demise and begin to determine our own directions and futures. How will this happen? It is going to take the desire, courage, resources, commitment, honesty, and the will of everyone to make it happen. Creating a united federation of nations and tribes will not happen overnight, but with steadfastness, it can happen. Creating a united federation of nations and tribes does not mean throwing away existing cultures. It does not mean casting aside existing programs. It does mean creating regional hospitals, medical centers, schools, places of worship, if desired, and native businesses. Many of the things that are sorely lacking throughout the Indian country or throughout Indian country. Open the medical facilities to non-natives. Open the schools to non-natives. Encourage non-natives to patronize native businesses. That should be a given, but those entities will be established on native terms, owned by native people. Power. That's what I'm adding in there. Power. In closing, with any new idea, suggestion, theory, or plan, there are things that need to be ironed out, kinks to be straightened, and changes to be made. Together as Native people, collectively, we can determine our own futures. Thank you for your time. David Greyowl. And so, again, I listened to this podcast. It's called Native Opinions. You can check them out on YouTube because they have their shows on YouTube, Native Opinions. You can also check them out on iTunes. It's a free subscription, you know. You don't have to pay or whatever like that. And I say check them out. I love their topics of discussion. Most of it is political. So if you lean more conservative, you may not necessarily like the show. But check them out. And again, the link I'll put in the description box and we can go from there. Also, this whole thing about self-determination. I touched on it before about self-determination and the United Nations and how that plays out. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around how that all works. Let's see, United Nations. Okay. So there is, make sure I get to the right website. Okay. Again, I'll post this link as well when I get a chance. So, what is self-determination? Essentially, the right to self-determination is the right of a people to determine its own destiny. In particular, the principle allows a people to choose its own political status and to determine its own form of economic, cultural, and social development. Exercise of this right can result in a variety of different outcomes, ranging from political independence through to full integration into a state. The importance lies in the right of choice, so that the outcome of a people's choice should not affect the existence of the right to make a choice. In particular, however, the possible outcome of an exercise of self-determination will often determine the attitude of governments towards the actual claim by a people or nation. Thus, while claims to cultural autonomy may be more readily recognized by states, claims to independence are more likely to be rejected by them. Nevertheless, the right to self-determination is recognized in international law as a right of process, not of outcome, belonging to peoples and not to states or governments. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Let me find another link here. I don't like Yahoo. When I try to do a search, I like to search on Google, because for whatever, Bing and Yahoo doesn't give me exactly what I'm looking for. Let's see. Here. Make sure I get to the right one. Okay. Apparently, the United States. Okay, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. If you look up self-determination, that's self-determination. This is what I'm reading from. I'm going to add that link to the description box later. But if you want to follow along with me, if you're in front of a computer, if you Google self-determination, Wikipedia, this is what I'm reading from. Let's see. Okay. Defining peoples. I think this was like the main thing that person told me about last year, because they traveled to United Nations meetings quite a bit in New York City. And it was defining peoples. That was an issue, apparently. You know, some words and phrases can be interpreted so many ways. So the word peoples has been debated amongst different groups of people, back and forth or whatever, how defining peoples when it comes to the United Nations. It says, there is not yet a recognized legal definition of peoples in international law. Veta Gudelevis, I know I butchered that, something law school, reviewing international law and UN resolutions, finds in cases of non-self-governing peoples, and in parentheses it says colonized and or indigenous, and foreign military occupation, a people is the entire population of the occupied territorial unit, no matter their other differences. In cases where people lack representation by a state's government, the unrepresented become a separate people. Present international law does not recognize ethnic and other minorities as separate peoples, with the notable exception of cases in which such groups are systematically disenfranchised by the government of the state they live in. Other definitions offered are peoples being self-evident from ethnicity, language, history, etc., or defined by ties of mutual affection or sentiments, loyalty, or by mutual obligations among peoples, or the definition may be simply that a people is a group of individuals who unanimously choose a separate state. If the people are unanimously in their desire for self-determination, it strengthens their claim. For example, the populations of federal units of the Yugoslav Federation were considered a people in the breakup of Yugoslavia, although some of these units had very diverse populations. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that part of this Wikipedia, it's kind of hard for me to comprehend. Even though I was reading it, I wasn't really comprehending a lot of it. So my apologies to you guys who were trying to keep up with me reading fast. Okay, let's see. Self-determination, right to self-determination. United Nations. Let me go to the United Nations. Okay, home. And then do self-determination. I got 3 people still watching, so whoever's still watching, thanks. Trying to get to this website real quick so we can end this. But again, thanks for chiming in and staying on this long. I don't want to bore you guys, but obviously what I'm saying you resonate with. So I appreciate that. Let's see. I think I need self-determination. Okay, if you go to Wikipedia and let's just say you Google Native American self-determination, the first thing that pops up is Wikipedia. Now, one thing about Wikipedia, there could be some discrepancies, you know, some things may not necessarily be as accurate or whatever, but we're gonna go off Wikipedia for the sake of this conversation. So it says Native American self-determination refers to the social movements, legislation, and beliefs of which the Native American tribes in the United States exercise self-governance and decision-making on issues that affect their own people. And it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. What I'm saying is people who got the crumbs from the master table going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, not wanting to give up whatever control they have over the American Indian Bureau of Indian Affairs or whatever. Now, post-1960, self-determination was not officially federal government policy until 1970, when President Richard M. Nixon addressed the issue in his July the 8th congressional message of recommendations for Indian policy. He discussed his goal of policy changes that supported Indian self-determination. It is long past time that the Indian policies of the federal government began to recognize and build upon the capacities and insights of the Indian people, both as a matter of justice and as a matter of enlightened social policy. We must begin to act on the basis of what the Indians themselves have long been telling us. The time has come to break decisively with the past and to create the conditions for a new era in which the Indian future is determined by Indian acts and Indian decisions. Okay, that was 1970, Nixon. In 1968, Congress had passed the Indian Civil Rights Act after recognizing the policies of Indian determination as a failure during the 1960s. American Indians has persisted in keeping their cultures and religions alive, and the government recognized that the goal of assimilation was the wrong one. The bill was to ensure provision of the Bill of Rights to the tribal peoples. That's plural. In the following years, Congress passed additional legislation to carry out Nixon's programs to develop a stronger trust relationship between federal government and the tribes, and to allow the tribes to manage their own affairs. Again, they're still dealing with federal recognized tribes. Let me drop down a little bit here. So one thing I've noticed about self-determination when it comes to international laws and it comes to the United Nations, they don't necessarily pay close. They don't necessarily focus too much on the tribes per se. They're focusing on the individual peoples, indigenous peoples in this country. They focus a lot of their regulations and policies on tribes, you know, seeing people as a unit versus individual people. So that's kind of the difference between the United Nations and the whole self-determination thing versus the United States. And so the United States, let me see. Let me go back over here. The United Nations. Okay. Make sure I'm looking at the right one here. Okay. So I'm transitioning a little bit before I end this video, and this is the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And this is the United Nations and Indigenous Peoples, okay? This website is Native American Rights Fund. Again, if you're in front of your computer, you can go check it out. What I did was I Googled United Nations and Native American, and this is what popped up. This is kind of what I was trying to get to the past few minutes. So anyway, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. After 30 years of worldwide indigenous efforts, in September 2007, the United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly adopted the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. This is the declaration. The declaration recognizes that indigenous peoples have important collective human rights in a multitude of areas, including self-determination, spirituality, lands, territories, and natural resources. It also sets out minimum standards for the treatment of indigenous peoples and can serve as the basis for development of customary international law. The 2007 vote was tallied at 143 in favor of the declaration, 4 opposed, and 11 abstaining. The votes in opposition were, get this, ready for this? Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. They opposed this in 2007 initially. Canada endorsed the declaration in November 2010, and on December the 16th, 2010, President Obama made the historic announcement that the U.S. was reversing its negative vote. Hey, Obama. Hey, Obama. Makes you wonder why they opposed it in the first place. Implementing the declaration. Tribal leaders, Indian law practitioners, and scholars began to develop recommendations on the implementation of the declaration in the United States. In June of 2011, the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs held a hearing on implementing the declaration. NARF submitted written testimony on on behalf of its citizens, or its clients, sorry, the National Congress of American Indians, NCAI, to identify what actions were needed to make U.S. law conform to the standards set by the Declaration. The testimony addressed issues such as self-determination, lands, territories, and informed consent during legislative or regulatory decision-making. The testimony is available on the Senate Committee's website, and there's a link there. And again, you can click on that link. If you go to this website, I will have this website in the description box eventually, okay? And it says, in the May 2013 meeting of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues in New York City, more than 72 tribal nations and 10 Indian and Native Hawaiian organizations, including NCAI and NARF, called on the United Nations to become more inclusive of Indigenous governments. The joint statement recommended 3 focus areas. Number 1, establish a body at the UN to monitor implementation of the Declaration. Number 2, create a permanent, dignified, and appropriate status for Indigenous peoples at the United Nations. Number 3, address violence against Indigenous women. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. You remember during Standing Rock and all of that protesting and everything, how the chairman of Standing Rock actually went to the United Nations asking for help with regards to what was going down with the pipelines and everything like that. And I don't know exactly what happened at the United Nations, but apparently federally recognized tribes in the US communicating with the United Nations, there's some kind of disconnect there as far as the United Nations stepping in. And I don't know what kind of United States laws are in place, but for whatever reason, the United Nations are not in a position to come onto U.S. territory, even though it's, let's say it's a reservation. These tribes apparently are sovereign, but they're not necessarily sovereign like an actual nation. They're domestic sovereign nations to the U.S. So again, I'm not quite sure. I'm still kind of trying to understand the relationship between the UN and federally recognized tribes and all of that. But I do remember the chairman going to the United Nations to plead for some sort of assistance from the UN. In June 2013, Indigenous peoples from around the world held a meeting in Alta, Norway. This meeting produced recommendations for the implementation of the Declaration, which were used to lobby states in advance of the 2014 World Conference on Indigenous People. The Alta recommendations can be found at the United Nations website. The UN General Assembly subsequently adopted a document that addressed all the elements proposed by the indigenous organizations and tribal governments. Number 1, establish a body at the UN to monitor implementation of the Declaration. Number 2, create a permanent, dignified, and appropriate status for Indigenous peoples at the UN. Number 3, address violence against Indigenous women. And number 4, which is an extra, element, is protect sacred places. Now, when I started this video earlier, however many hours ago, I started it out with regards to unfederally recognized tribes trying to protect their environment, trying to protect the land. I would assume that will be under the protect sacred places element of the adopted document. So I'm not going to read all of this. I just wanted to kind of tap into the United Nations self-determination and all of that stuff. And maybe I'll do a separate video just on this alone once I wrap my brain around it, because this is important. Because a lot of people that haven't necessarily gotten federal recognition, state recognition, or whatever like that, it could be possible that they could connect with the United Nations. Skip the US and all that BS tribal police and all that, and deal directly with the United Nations. I don't know if that's a pipe dream or it's in the works or whatever. I don't know. But we shall see. We shall see. Because at the end of the day, it's not about status and crumbs from the master's table. It's about being who you are. It's about protecting the land that you live in, being stewards, right? That should be your badge of honor. Your badge of honor is to protect this place we call home. That should be your badge of honor. Your badge of honor should be being a steward of this place that we live on. That should be your badge of honor. Not what style regalia you're wearing, what style of dance that you're performing at a powwow, right? That's where I am right now. I'm on a level right now where, yes, I will attend a powwow here and there. Yes, I have close relationships with people who are members of federally and state recognized tribes, right? But at the same time, those people are on another level that I'm connected with. We're like-minded, right? They see what's going on. They recognize what's going on. And I put a little bug in their ear. Well, you know, I think such and such and such. I don't know about that. And guess what? They go back to their tribal leaders and voice that opinion to them. Your girl may not be federally recognized, but she's connected. And so I say this because even though for some snobbish people, they may look down on me because of X, Y, and Z, but I am connected with people who are at the table, whose voices are heard, but I'm also able to, in a roundabout way, voice my opinion, and that my opinion is disclosed or heard at that table, if that makes sense, right? It's almost kind of like, it's kind of like being a woman in a relationship. Have you guys seen the movie Troy? I'm trying to remember the actor that played in it. It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, he and his brother, they were both, powerful positions, whatever. Anyway, this whole battle at Troy was over a woman. And I'm saying this because many times whenever something goes down, whenever decisions are made, and you don't see a female presence in the room, most of the time there's a female giving her opinion. But you just don't necessarily see the female there because of the structure and the setup and the social, setup of that. But yeah, I have my connections. And so I put that little bug in their ear. I'm like, look, now you're going to this meeting or you're going to be with your peeps. This is what I have to say. Maybe you can kind of like say X, Y, and Z, or you can share something, blah, blah, blah. See how they feel about it, what they think. Da, 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 da. Now, they do get backlash, of course, right? But they're still members and they still have a voting right, right? They have rights to vote and they have rights to choose their leaders. And so I'm hoping, I'm praying that the people I'm connected with, eventually they will be in tribal leadership positions. And they will understand all of the twists and turns and pitfalls for a lot of people, even within their community, well, they can kind of iron out all of that after X amount of years. But a lot of the old heads that are in control of their tribal government, it's like this, you know. Like there's this one guy, he's a member of a tribe out in Colorado, and on the tribe's flag is an image of an oil, I don't know what it's called. It's like whatever that machine is to pump oil out of the ground. It was an image or symbol of that on the flag. And I was disappointed, and I brought it to his attention. I said, yeah, I was kind of disappointed to see that. He said, yeah, I know. He was like, I'm working on it. It's a lot of people that are just so used of the status quo that they, for whatever reason, they can't see past all of the other opportunities that are out there, that we don't necessarily have to continue to, you know, dig up the oil and pump it and whatever like that. There's other avenues out there. It's just hard to kind of get them to see another way. So I think he's working on that. And, you know, he has a really good head on his shoulders. And I'm hoping and praying that one day he will be in a leadership position that will benefit not only his people, his community, but the rest of us, you know. But yeah, that's where I am right now, where I am in my path, my walk. You guys know about my spiritual journey. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I need to go. But I'm glad you guys watched. I'm glad you guys communicated and gave your opinions and perspectives of things. And I have a couple of more comments, and then after that, once I read that, then I'm going to call it an evening, because right now it's Eastern time. It's 5:41. I've been running my mouth. I only had yogurt to eat today. I'm doing pretty good, but I don't want to get to the point where I forget to eat, and that's not good either. So I need to make sure I load up on the good stuff. So as far as the comments, let's see what we got here. Sweet says, Kimba, come back later. I will leave the title of this video. Okay, that was a Netflix video. So yes, still watching. I had to leave. My brother-in-law called me, but I am back. I will rewatch this video again. Great video. Okay, thanks, Sweet. Marlon says, peace and blessings, Kindred. Oh, peace and blessings to you. I don't know how long you've been watching, Marlon, but I'm going to be ending this video. Feel free to watch it from the beginning. like, share if you choose to. Yeah, that's where I am right now. Powwows, things of that nature is definitely great opportunity to socialize, get to know people and stuff like that. But we shouldn't end it there. That should not be your identification as far as Indigenous American. Like, oh, I wear regalia, I dance here, I win prizes at this, you know, powwow. I'm Mr. and Miss, or I'm part of the head lady, head dancer, or whatever club. There should be more contributions, right? There should be more about your identity. What else is there about your identity besides the card and regalia? There's more to it. But anyway, I gotta go get something to eat, drink, and be merry. And it's Friday. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Be blessed, stay blessed. Be a blessing to others. Until next time, and there will definitely be a next time. I want you all to enjoy your weekend. Happy August the 2nd. And until next time, toodles.